Hello and welcome to Digital Transformation and AI for Humans with your host, Emi. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. Let's dive into the performance marketing of the future and explore how to merge Hollywood experience with AI advancements for business expansion. My fantastic guest today, Forrest Bronzan from the United States, is here to share his story. Forrest is now the co-founder and CEO of JetSet and a board member at Digital Detox. After over 15 years in e-commerce, building award-winning agencies and driving revenue growth for brands like Bombas, MVMT, Walmart, and more. Earlier, Forrest founded and scaled Email Aptitude, named the number one fastest growing CRM loyalty agency in the United States by Inc. 5000 and number two best place to work in California by Ad Age. He grew it from 0 to 100 employees and eight-figure revenue without funding or a sales team. After strategic merger, he stepped into an even bigger game, helping grow the combined company to over 1,000 full-time employees, and exited once again. Welcome, Forrest. I'm happy to have you here in this studio. How are you?
I'm well, excited to be here.
Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. If you are interested in connecting or collaborating, you can find more information in the description. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes. I would also love to invite you to get your copy of AI Leadership Compass, Unlocking Business Growth and Innovation, the definitive guide for leaders and business owners to adapt and thrive in the age of AI and digital transformation. Find the Amazon link in the description below. Welcome, Forrest. I'm so happy to have this conversation today. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm very interested in your journey, and I would love to hear more about yourself. Could you share some, please?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Excited for the conversation. I'm Forrest Bronzan, co-founder and CEO at JetSet. And I think going a step back, before JetSet, I founded and scaled a loyalty and CRM agency. We were working with fast growth to enterprise brands, pretty much running all of their loyalty programs. We grew to a little over 100 full-time before being acquired. Stayed on with a great experience with a larger agency. And then after that, took a little bit of time off. Reconnected in 2024, late 2024, with my now co-founder. And, really, JetSet really spurred out of noticing a lot of the problems with the current agency space. And my previous agency, this was back 2015 to 2020, give or take. And now there's just so many fundamental problems with a lot of the big agencies and mid-sized agencies out there, and we wanted to solve for that. I think my entire career has been in the marketing agency space, and it's what I know, it's what I love. I love working with clients. I love building teams. I love scaling brands. And it was just this natural transition to launch another agency and focus on helping brands grow in a really authentic way, and add some new tricks to the arsenal with GenAI and rethinking how we approach performance creative and how growth teams think about scaling brands in 2025. So we're excited. We're off to a really great start, building some phenomenal momentum.
Fantastic. Forrest, you are not just building another agency, you are reinventing the model with the Hollywood leverages AI approach. What inspired you to merge creative storytelling with performance marketing tech, and what industry gap led you to this path?
Yes, let's separate out the Gen AI side because that's slightly different conversation. But on the creative side, let me digress briefly. So most agencies, most performance agencies, they're not that great at creative. They might have some in-house graphic designers and motion graphics folks. They might have, some art direction. In many cases, they outsource the video production and large scale content creation, which by default isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they don't have that native connection between performance, brand, and output, specifically on the video side. If they're doing, a quick 6-second reel, that's one thing. But again, like they're natively not a creative agency; they're a performance agency. They're data folks. When you look at the creative agency side, and there's some phenomenal ones out there, I'm not going to talk ill about any of them. Like they're great, but they're only focused on one campaign or creative. Yes, they'll develop a beautiful Super Bowl spot, or this wonderful ad campaign that's on brand and maybe perform as well, but they're so disconnected from everything that happens in the performance org and from just performance in general. And that's a huge disconnect, right? And if you're a brand, you're then forced to really connect the dots with whether you have in-house team managing performance or performance agency with your creative agency, or you're relying on traditional performance agency that, let's just be real, isn't that great at creative, at least at an enterprise level. And so we wanted to take a different approach. At the core, we're a performance shop, right? We have some of the most world-class performance marketers on our team, managing influencer and meta and scaling spend and just doing some phenomenal things on the growth side. And we wanted to merge that with the creative side with a lot of integrity, way beyond just graphic design, right? That's table stakes. And so we brought on as a partner Pete Cambor, and he's head of commercial and film, and he comes from the Hollywood side, both sides of the screen. You'd see him as an actor on shows like NCIS Los Angeles, Grace and Frankie, Suits, and the list goes on. And he then turned out to be a phenomenal filmmaker and producer. And we brought him on. I've known Pete for a few years in other capacities, and the stars aligned for him to join as a partner of the agency. And what that means, we have this different level of storytelling and access chops. And the crews that we're able to pull might be coming off the set of White Lotus to film of a Super Bowl spot. The access that we have in terms of talent, whether it's talent for brand ambassadorship or offline influencer or talent within commercial film, pretty much anyone in music, sports, and television in Hollywood. And that's really meaningful. I think on the storytelling side, and this is really important because this then dovetails into everything we do, even if we're not doing a commercial film shoot, whether it's GenAI, whether it's performance, whether it's influencer, is we're building this phenomenal team under Pete's leadership of storytellers. And I think a lot of brands have lost touch with the importance of creating brand story and connecting those dots with the performance and the more objective side. And that's what we're not only trying to do, that's what we're doing right now. So we're really excited. And one quick note on Pete, and this is all public now. I think by the time this airs, he was just this week, it's early May right now, nominated for an Emmy on a production that he produced, which is just a phenomenal achievement. He was a producer on a Paramount Plus documentary, and it was just nominated for an Emmy last week. So we're announcing that soon. Couldn't be more prouder.
Amazing news and congratulations. That is so impressive. And what you just shared, it touched so many important areas. And it also reminded me, I was watching those movies. It is truly inspiring to see a business person who could come into collaboration with another brilliant star and create such a constellation where you are sharing your magic together.
It's been a great learning experience for me as well. I don't have any hands-on experience in the Hollywood world, right? That's Pete's arena. And it operates differently than the agency world. And so it's been really exciting learning that world, meeting some of those players and merging it with, how we know we're building, best of breed performance agency. So we're pumped. We're firing on all cylinders right now.
So true. What does human AI collaboration mean to you? And how does it reshape how strategy, content, and execution flow in a modern business?
Yeah, so AI, we're in uncharted territory right now on all fronts. How we're using AI to operationalize processes, how we're using generative AI for content creation, static photography, video, et cetera. I mean, 1 month ago, we were at a different spot than we are today. It's changing so fast. One challenge that we see brands making, or mistake that we see them making, is they're jumping too headfirst. I'm talking specifically about generative AI. So using AI for content creation, model replication, replacing photo shoots, and eventually video. And they're jumping too quickly into, what we call kind of cheap tools. There's free tools out there, and they'll go in, they'll create something that looks okay, right? But if you're a brand that's looking to last, okay doesn't do it when it comes to, brand integrity and content creation. And so we're, as a service level, we offer full service commercial grade Gen AI on the photo side, and we're close on the video side. And to answer your question on the human component, and again, I'm not trying to plug our services too much here, but it's important for context. We're putting the same teams that we would on a commercial film project. So storyboarding, concepting, ideation, all of that on the Gen AI side. So before we even get to a prompt, it goes through the same collaboration and creative iteration process as a traditional shoot would. And then from there, we're using technology and AI to make the actual production process more efficient. And after that, then there's this just huge human component of post-production and bringing it to life. But bringing this full circle, I think where brands need to focus more on, if they're going to use AI on the Gen AI side for content, how do we do that in a way that is authentic to the brand and that still has a winning story? Yeah, we could, use Veo 2 or Sora or ChatGPT to generate all images we want, but you still have to have good story and you still have to have good brand connection. And that's what we're really doing.
I totally agree with you. And it is very important to understand that in order to do it the right way. So thank you for highlighting that part. First, most agencies still separate brand and performance. You are fusing the two. What does that integration look like in practice, and why do you see it as the future of sustainable business growth?
Yeah, so I think a lot of agencies, they may merge the two, but they kind of treat it as a silo, or they think of brand purely as a, direct response performance mechanism. They're not thinking holistically about customer experience and long-term brand connection, right? And so that's where we're trying to take it another level. So I want to be clear, some other phenomenal performance agencies, yes, they're it's not like they're not thinking about brand. They want to have things aesthetically pleasing, but it's focused a little bit too narrow, in our opinion, on that finite asset. How do we make this one static ad or video ad align with brand guide, or how do we make it pretty? Yes, that's important. We need those things, but there's a much deeper level. How do we create a brand experience, and how do we create a lasting brand that people love, and combine that with the performance side? So that's what we feel, that's our thesis, and that's what we feel is critically important, and that's devoid in most agencies right now. And how we're combining that, yeah, it's a combination of using, best of breed performance tactics and growth management with everything I mentioned, Pete's team on the storytelling and brand side, creating, this amazing brand sentiment, this amazing brand story, these amazing experiences, and then combining that with the best tactics to evangelize that to your customer base. That's a winning formula.
Truly, you are spot on about that. That is a winning formula because I've been in the world of digital business growth and marketing and branding for so many years in different positions and leadership roles. And I've seen from inside and from the outside how sometimes it might create the silo effect, lack of collaboration between functions and important parts of the business, which should be actually much better connected. What you are sharing, it is important to focus on customer centricity, on running business by prioritizing what really matters. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. It's much more complicated than that. I think
Of
another
course.
important point is, I just had a conversation with the CMO yesterday. Brand have it very tough right now. It's different than it was, a decade ago, where we need to meet short-term goals. Like we need to make revenue, we need to keep the lights on, we need to continue meeting quota. But at the same time, I think brands that are going to win long term are balancing that with long-term brand growth, right? So yes, let's focus on short-term, mid-term sales, absolutely critical. We're not saying anything otherwise, but we feel that too many brands are only focused on that and not thinking about the big picture, and they're going to ultimately lose out in the long run.
I see it as a trend overall that many leaders are missing seeing the big picture in different perspectives, and it is going to have a price they will need to pay. By hiring a Hollywood profile with over 20 years of experience as an actor and film director, your agency offers clients a deep understanding of narrative, emotion, special effects, and pacing. How does that creative instinct influence how you build AI-enhanced campaigns that don't feel like AI, but go viral with real human resonance?
Yeah, so on the Gen AI side, if I understand the question correctly, like it's sort of a multi-pronged beast, right? So on the pure tactical output, we need to generate something, whether it's a static image or a video asset that looks as real as possible. That's a whole different conversation. How do you do that? Some of that comes into just excellence and prompt engineering and post production. It's a lot more complex than just throwing a prompt into a platform and getting an image out, right? And so we need to have that realism though. At the end of the day, if it doesn't look real, it's going to backfire. I think though, what I was mentioning earlier is there's a whole different side of the coin where before we even get to that challenge of how do we create the most real looking asset, how do we come up with a story that resonates with customers, that resonates with brand, and tells the brand story in a really authentic way? And all of that is really important to think about. And this is the step that many brands are missing when it comes to Gen AI, to then have the AI generated assets really come to life. So it's not as simple as just we're going to put in this prompt, we're going to have this output, and it's going to look on brand. Critical, but how do we create this environment? The opportunities that Gen AI brings are just phenomenal. For a brand that doesn't have the budget to, travel to 10 locations around the world to have a variety and imagery, we're able to solve for that. And we're also able to reach broader audiences by having more diversification in our casting and our model selection. So there's some phenomenal benefits that, when done right, brands can have just great outcomes and really diversify their content portfolio.
Forrest, together with your team, you are building a new kind of engine, fast, lean, intelligent, and future-proofed. What is under the hood? Can you share a bit about the architecture, the systems, or talent model that supports this new wave of business?
I could share some, right? And in terms of future proof, like things are changing every month, so we're keeping up. Yeah, so I think like part of our thesis as an agency, and the reason that we started, is that larger agencies are just too bottlenecked. You have too much red tape. They move very slow. They don't have the agility that fast growth enterprise brands need. In many cases, you're getting really green teams on accounts. You might have a big disconnect in the sales process to who you're actually getting on your account when you launch. And most agencies, think of an agency with 2,000 employees, there's only so much great talent out there. And, it's tough for them to keep up hiring the best talent to then assign. And then as they get larger, once you have a finance team of 50 and a marketing team of 50 and, private equity backed and other goals to meet, you have to start cutting somewhere or increasing prices elsewhere. So it becomes a double whammy where, a brand then is overpaying, but then the agency's under delivering because they have to meet margin goals. So that's sort of the backdrop. And so with JetSet, how we're solving for that, we're doing it in several different ways. And one of our unfair advantages is we just know the best talent around the world. And we know the best influencer crews from this group and the best in-house person here. And so we've been able to cherry pick, just phenomenal talent that we've vetted and worked with. And, we put talent first. We'll never have green teams on accounts. Part of that's with our agility and flexibility, though. We're very careful with what brands we bring on. We don't take on, and this is very different. Most agencies will take on any revenue possible. Any deal, sign it, great, we're going to service it. With Jet Set, we're very careful with who we bring on. It has to pass a couple tests. One, and probably most importantly, we have to genuinely feel that we're going to do a really great job and have huge success. One of the most important KPIs for me is client retention. We don't want any attrition unless it's very natural. Happy to describe those situations where it does make sense. But part of that comes in the sales process and weeding out prospects. We've turned away six figures in revenue just in the last 30 days, right? Because it wasn't the right fit for multiple reasons. And so being very particular about that, who we're bringing on that we know that we're going to do a great job with, and we believe in the product. That's another thing. Like we might think, okay, this product, yes, tactically we could do a great job at and have an awesome case study, but we just don't have much belief in the product long term. Maybe they lost their funding, or there's some bad customer sentiment out there. So we're very careful with who we bring on. So that's sort of the second pillar. I think the third is just our mindset. We're extremely agile. We assign a lot of resources to teams. Every client has a senior growth strategist. We don't have account managers, right? Most agencies will have an account manager. They don't know anything really about the nuts and bolts of the account. They're just kind of the friendly person. And this isn't a dig on other agencies that do it this way. It scales, but it's not at the best service for the customer. And so, with clients that we're doing more than one or two channels, we're assigning a senior growth strategist that's connecting the dots between channels, even if we're not executing. So we might have a client where we're doing enterprise influencer and managing paid social, but they have another agency doing two other channels and in-house for a couple more channels. Fine, that's great. We're still that connective tissue between all of those channels and making sure that everything is humming in a thoughtful way. So that's really important. I could keep going on and on. I don't want to divulge too much of our secret sauce, but at the end of the day, I think if I were to sum it up, there's some fundamental infrastructure problems with a lot of agencies out there that we're solving for. That's one. And then second, we're just scaling in a very thoughtful way. We sometimes run a wait list. We're selective with who we bring on, and that affords us the ability to make sure that we only have phenomenal teams and just the absolute highest client retention.
That is a very wise approach, and it reflects in your results clearly, because the chain is not stronger than its weakest link. And you're making sure that every link is very strong and powerful. But let's dive a little bit deeper into this. What are the most common mistakes you see performance marketers making when trying to implement artificial intelligence? And how can they shift from tool-focused to human-centered and outcome-directed? Now, when we are talking about the strong sides and weak sides and the pitfalls, let's future-proof this model and talk about AI implementation.
Are we talking about Gen AI in particular, or just all AI for marketing?
Whatever you feel fits and resonates with how you're running your business.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, first off, like a lot of agencies on the Gen AI side, so, commercial grade creative, I don't know of many that are doing it well, right? There's a couple like single channel shops, but larger agencies, again, going back to the agility, they're slower to adopt, slower to innovate. And so we're leading the way there in terms of the highest quality generative AI for performance agencies. So they're slow to catch up. That's one. In terms of brands, if you look at like an internal team, yeah, a lot of internal brand teams are getting very curious on Gen AI. How do we do it? And it usually starts with like, okay, a founder or CMO says we need to have more efficiency with Gen AI. Let's look into this. They'll sign up for, a cheap tool. They'll spend several hours trying to get something to look good. It ends up not looking good and they give up. That's a typical cycle. Sometimes it'll look good. I'm talking, lifestyle photography, video, actual content. Where they are doing a decent job is probably using AI for kind of quick iteration. So it's not that they're using AI to generate a human image or a human video, but they might have a static product shot and they'll use, some great AI tools to then create, 15 different versions versus, a slow process with a graphic designer. And I think there's some agencies and brands that are doing that effectively. and that's saving them a lot of time, and they're able to be, a lot more agile. We're taking that just a whole step further. We kind of think of that as table stakes for AI. Yes, we'll use it to, make the simple stuff more efficient. But we want to get to the complex stuff. Or how do we do a photo shoot that normally we would do in 5 different locations with 20 different models and 5 months of planning? How do we do that with Gen AI and with human storytelling? And that's where I think brands have the biggest benefit to gain. Like it's a smaller benefit, but a real one, using statics to then create 10 versions and save a couple hours of time. But it's a big win if we could then extrapolate on that with lifestyle photography and in models and venues that they would have never been able to have access to.
As a follow-up on what you just mentioned, today's technologies open up the space for medium and small players. You no longer need massive budgets, filmmaking, models, or production. It saves time, resources, and enables an unprecedented level of personalization. If we zoom out, what does the future of performance marketing look like in your eyes, especially as AI becomes more autonomous and brands start leaning on emotion-driven automation at scale?
Yeah, and on the video side, I don't feel it's quite there yet. Will it be there next month? Maybe. Will it be there this year? Probably. Will it be there next year? Definitely. Quote me on that. But yeah, like in terms of like full length, think of like a 30-second pre-roll with generative video. It it's sort of there. It's not quite there. You'll see a lot of, reels on YouTube or LinkedIn, and yeah, like it looks good visually, but you would never kind of put that out for an actual full-length commercial. So it's close, and we're almost there on our side, and we're collaborating with some of the best platforms out there. That'll get there. Photo is there, right? That's just there. And you brought up a really interesting point on brands now having access and being able to compete with the bigger players, and that's real, right? And we like to tell our clients, if we're working with an enterprise brand and if they have, the budget for this massive commercial film shoot, for sure, do that. It's going to be better, right? But if you're that mid-market fast growth brand and you don't have the $1 million budget for this complex photo shoot and all these locations, we could do that for a fraction of the cost. It's still not cheap, but it's nowhere near the cost of actual lifestyle photography, and that puts them on a level playing field. But this is an important point because eventually everyone will be doing that for the most part. And so you have to differentiate. And there might be a boomerang effect where then traditional photography and video went out because there'll be so few people doing it. But let's put that aside for a second. Eventually, if everyone's doing generative AI for lifestyle photo, the ones that are then putting more thought into brand and story are going to win. Otherwise, everything is going to look the same and very generic. And so that's the mistake again brands are making. Whether it's with other agencies that are trying to figure it out or internally, is they're jumping the gun on, how do we create this quick image just for the sake of saving time without thinking about how does this impact brand long term? That's what we'd advocate for. In terms of the future of performance marketing, yeah, I mean there's so much change just in terms of how we manage ads and how we kind of think about storytelling, how we think about Gen AI, influencer management. And there's so much on the process side, on the external performance side. And it's exciting. I feel grateful that I'm alive and running an agency in this era that's able to kind of be on the front lines of this change that no one's ever seen in a lifetime, right? So it's thrilling, and we'll see. Ask me next month where it's at. I'm sure there's going to be innovations that change. Do I think that eventually humans are not going to be needed for advertising campaigns and for marketing? No. I mean, is AI going to eliminate a lot of jobs? For sure. Is it going to be more efficient for marketers with fewer resources? Absolutely. But the brands that are going to win are still going to leverage humans to run that process and to put together brand connection in a really thoughtful way.
I couldn't agree more with everything you just mentioned. I'm thinking about our creativity and our way of connecting with each other as human beings. Do you think there is a risk that the way most of us are using AI today might impact our creativity and our communication style in a negative way?
So yes and no. Like I feel in terms of creativity, I feel I'm a more creative person by bouncing things by ChatGPT, right? Like it inspires me and gives me ideas that I might have not otherwise thought of. I'm not using chat to completely write content articles and do the work for me necessarily, but in terms of like a brainstorm partner, it's incredibly helpful. And I feel like I've become a more creative person with that. I think it can go too far. And I think the human connection is still really important. And for consumers, it's really important as well. Many consumers, they can't tell the difference between a generative AI asset and a real asset. And sometimes it's reverse. I've been talking about that data. But in terms of that connection with the brand, connection with other humans, that's not going away. What's here is ability to scale faster, be more efficient. I would argue in some cases be more creative, but we still have to have that foundation of human connection. And I think brands that think about that with their internal teams, with their customers, with their partners are going to win long term.
I absolutely love the positive way you are looking at this. And I feel that our future is bright and we are really blessed to be a part of this period in history where we are creating this future through merging together fantastic technologies and our human talents and opportunities to create something amazing. Forrest, what is your Hollywood strategy advice to CMOs, agency founders, or growth leaders who want to stay relevant, drive results, and lead in the AI powered branding and performance marketing world of 2025 and beyond?
Would say don't become complacent and think outside the box, right? I think a lot of performance marketers have just been so stuck in what's worked, right? And what worked in 2020 and 2022 and 2024 might not work this year. So think outside the box, stay nimble, stay educated, continue to innovate and learn. I think that's one. And then on the Hollywood side, it's more, Hollywood or not Hollywood. It's all about kind of brand story. Don't negate the power of building a really awesome brand and one that customers absolutely love and can't wait to share and evangelize for you. If you can combine that and then stay on the curve of some of the latest on the performance side, then you're going to be okay.
This is the perfect way of wrapping up our today's conversation. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much, Forrest, for being here, sharing your energy, your insights, your experience, and your vision for the future. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation and AI for Humans. I am Amy, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.